And hello everybody! So, no more teasing, no more recapping. I've already done a recap video where I went over all the movies I missed. I'll put a link to that right here. And also, here's all the many movies that I already watched throughout the course of 2016, which have been nominated for some sort of Oscar, including this. But anyway, now we gotta get to this list now. We gotta get to these nominations because the Oscars are gonna be out in less than a week, and I am definitely 100% right on everything or your money back. So let's get started on this whole list thing. Now, I'm going to have to clarify here. Basically, you kind of have to make two lists when considering the Oscars. Those that I think should win, and those that probably will win just because that's how the Oscars work. So, like last year, I'm going to make it so that ones I think should deserve to win versus ones that probably will win. And I'll explain my reasoning for both when it comes. So I'm just going to, I'm looking at the list of Oscar-nominated things right now. I'm going from the bottom up. So we're going to be starting with Writing, Original Screenplay. The nominees are Hell or High Water, La La Land, The Lobster, Manchester by the Sea, and 20th Century Women. My pick is for Manchester by the Sea. Of course, I thought it was a brilliant screenplay. I loved the a lot of the dialogue in this, and it holds up really well. There's not, what can I say? What I think will actually win is Hell or High Water, which isn't a bad choice. I just wasn't as enthused about it as all. But it's a movie that's gotten a lot of hype recently, and therefore I think it stands a good chance. The reason why I haven't picked La La Land, which of course is the big storm that's probably going to win most things, is just because I try to feel that some people will see reason and realize that even objectively, even if you kind of like the movie, you have to admit the script is probably the worst part of it. It's a very unoriginal story. I mean, come on, even if you like the music, even if you like the characters and stuff like this, it doesn't deserve that. You gotta give me that thing, please. Now we're moving on to Writing, Adapted Screenplay. We've got Arrival, Fences, Hidden Figures, Lion, and Moonlight. All good choices. My personal pick is for Arrival. It was a very tense movie, and it's all about language, so there is a lot of good dialogue potential in there, and it is fully utilized. What I think will actually win is probably Fences, just because the dialogue heaviness of that movie, it relies entirely on dialogue because it has like two sets. It will really put a lot of strain onto its main actors, including Denzel Washington. And since a majority of the Hollywood voters are actors, that will probably incentivize them to vote for this the most, at least in my theory. Now for visual effects. Now I've done some research on this one. I've done some research on a lot of these more technical awards that tend to have a lot of big budget blockbusters that the Academy doesn't normally like, but they've begun including for the past decade just so that the kids these days will be interested in watching their show. So anyway, the nominees are Deepwater Horizon, Doctor Strange, The Jungle Book, Kubo and the Two Strings, and Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. Now, of course, I've looked it up, and even though these things are technically for the blockbusters, there always tends to be at least one that is kind of artsy, kind of a little more held back, kind of a less what you'd call a traditional blockbuster, and at least from my theory, it seems to win more often than not. So, my pick of course is for Kubo, because the visual effects in that were mind-blowing, but I also think it'll probably win, just because in comparison to that other crowd, it is by far the most artistic of the type of them. So I honestly think Kubo has a chance of winning an Oscar, and that is quite a good thing. And now we have sound mixing. Arrival, Hacksaw Ridge, La La Land, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, and 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. Now, this is a similar type of thing, technical award. My personal pick for this would go for Hacksaw Ridge, just because, it's... What can I say? When they get to the big battle scene, when shit's blowing up and people are exploding, there's some damn good sound mixing in that. I do not think it's a wholly good movie overall, but during that action scene, that was intense. Yeah. But anyway, La La Land is probably gonna be the winner for that. Completely illogical. You would never think La La Land for sound mixing. I mean, that's utterly ridiculous. But once again, I've done some research into history. They seem to be kind of illogical with this, so I'm going with the big man. So now moving on to sound editing. If you're wondering what the difference is, sound editing is where you place each sound in the soundtrack, and how well that is put together, and sound mixing is creation of sounds. So, for instance, if we're taking Jurassic Park as an example, placing the specific dinosaur roars in the correct spots to create a certain effect is sound editing. Creating those dinosaur roars from mixing a dog, a person, and a car engine is sound mixing. Now, for sound editing, we have Arrival, Deepwater Horizon, Hacksaw Ridge, La La Land, and Sully. I also can't believe that Sully was nominated for something. I can't believe anybody remembered that. I guess this is what pity is called. Anyway, I'm going with Arrival for sound editing, just because I remember very distinctly the ominous sounds that would come whenever we saw the giant spaceship. It was just a big whoo, just very intense. And La La Land is gonna get this as well, because the world is terrible. And now we're getting to the short films. The first one is live action. We have Enemies in Taurus, La Femme et la TGV, Silent Nights, Sing, and Time Code. Now, I am personally going to go with Enemies in Taurus, which I thought was a very intense and extremely well-written scene, kind of showing just kind of the debacle we have when it comes to certain ethnic minorities, and yeah, it's terrifying, and it's wholly true, and that's what makes it even more terrifying, so that's my pick. I believe that the winner will probably be Time Code, because it is extremely heartwarming, and it is also, well, it's the sort of thing that, like, that most people will really get behind. Alright, fine, I'm going to tell you what it's about. These two security guards are, basically they hold switch shifts, right? So one works for, I presume, 12 hours, and then the next one comes and takes over. And then one day, one of them notices that the other is dancing. Just dancing during his shift. So she basically responds to this by also dancing, and then eventually they end up dancing together, and it is hilarious and beautiful and fun, and the sort of thing actors will go for, so that's why I presume it'll win. Now we have short film animated with Blind Vaisha, Borrowed Time, Parasiter and Cigarettes, Pearl, and Piper. Now, of course, my one is going to be Pearl. I don't know why, I'm not a dad or anything, but for some reason it kind of struck me in a personal way. Just that whole idea of your life going by, and to make sure not to leave the people who got you there behind. It's a very beautiful message. I believe the winner will be Borrowed Time, and rightfully so. It's a really well-crafted film, and and it has a really nice little story to it, and yeah, not a bad choice at all. None of these selections are bad choices. Just putting that out there. If any one of them won, I would be totally fine, except for maybe Piper. But even then, not that bad. Now, for production design, we've got Arrival, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Hail Caesar, La La Land, and Passengers. Right, the Coen Brothers movie with only like 1 or 2 nominations. These guys are really slipping. But anyway, La La Land, of course, is probably going to win this. And I, of course, think that it should probably win. Yeah, I agree. I want it to win. I'm not a monster. I mean, it's not like the movie's a total piece of crap. It's just I don't like certain parts of it. But production design-wise, yeah, totally. Music, original song, we have Audition from La La Land, City of Stars from La La Land, Can't Stop the Feeling from Movie That Shall Not Be Named, The Empty Chair from Jim the James Foley Story, and How Far I'll Go. Yeah, of course, since it's the only one that I just started humming right now, uncontrollably, because I remember it so well. Yeah, give it the fucking Moana already. But, yeah, one of the La La Land is going to win, and it will be City of Stars. That's the one that everybody seems to like. I've never been so disappointed with a musical, I swear to God. Now we have music original score. This seems like kind of a cheat. La La Land's going to win. I'm not even before I even say what the nominees are, La La Land's gonna fucking win that. Like, shit, the only mainstream musical that wasn't a kid's movie, fuck yeah, it's gonna win music original score, whatever. Anyway, the nominees are Loser, 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 and La La Land. Okay, Jackie, Lion, Moonlight Passengers, and La La Land. I personally think Jackie is a better choice, as that soundtrack kicked my ass, but yeah, there you go. Anyway, moving on to the smallest category, with only 3 positions. I don't know why. I guess it's just because nobody cares about it, but makeup and hairstyling with a man called Ove, Star Trek Beyond, and Suicide Squad. Now, I love A Man from Ove, and I think it probably will win since it is the only movie that you could consider art. But honestly, I didn't notice anything particularly special about the makeup and hairstyling in that. I mean, it was alright, yeah, but nothing really, like, extraordinary about it. In fact, with none of these I'd call them really extraordinary, but at least with Star Trek Beyond, there was some moments, like I remember that lady with the crab head and stuff. I don't know how much of that was practical, but it still looked good. Of course, our main actress with her face thing going on, and Lord Emperor Evil Man, whatever he was, like, makeup on that looked good, so yeah, that would be my pick. And we're just going to ignore that Suicide Squad is on this. I'm not sure why Killer Creature would be deserving of such a thing, but whatever. Anyway, foreign language film, we have Land of Mine from Denmark, A Man Called Ove from Sweden, The Salesman from Iran, Tana from Australia, and Tony Erdmann from Germany. Now, none of these are super obvious, as not a single one involves like a really heavy acting performance, nor is it about acting that much, except for maybe The Salesman, which is why I'm picking that, because it has a subplot where he's working as an actor on a set of Death of a Salesman, so there's that connection to it, and also there might be political reasons for it. As you can imagine, the travel ban also includes Iran, so I believe there was a question as to whether the director can even come to the country right now. So that alone might propel the movie to winning. However, if we're just going purely by what I think deserves it, A Man Called Ove, hands down. I loved every minute of it. I thought it was a great story, and I loved all the performances, and just generally, generally great movie. So I think that one deserves to win more than anything else. Now we have film editing, which is Rival, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, La La Land, and Moonlight. And yeah, this is another one. I gotta say, yeah, probably out of those choices, yeah, I agree. Now we have documentary short subject with Extremis, 4.1 Miles, Joe's Violin, Watani My Homeland, and The White Helmets. My favorite is probably Joe's Violin, simply because that's the only one that actually wasn't completely depressing. Like, this one actually is about hope and moving on and being a good person. And I like that. I mean, The White Helmet is too, but, like, that one's more like mild hope amongst, like, heavy tragedy, and this is, like, hope afterwards, and it's a little stronger. It's at least in my opinion. I believe the winner will probably be Watani My Homeland, and not undeservedly. It is a really, really amazing thing that they even got some of that footage. I'm still amazed that they actually went down to war-torn Syria and just shot documentary footage of this stuff, where one of the subjects was actually kidnapped by ISIS during shooting. Like, my God, that is freaking terrifying. So yeah, I think it will win, and I am not at all upset about that. So now we have documentary feature with Fire at Sea, I Am Not Your Negro, Life Animated, OJ Made in America, and 13th. My pick, believe it or not, is going with OJ. OJ Made in America. It's 7.5 hours. And to be honest, if you can keep someone's attention for 7.5 freaking hours, like without ever getting boring, without ever losing attention, damn it, you are an awesome documentary. So that's why it's by far and away my favorite, and I also enjoy just how balanced it is. I don't think a single other documentary on this list is so well balanced on the issue. You get a very full, rounded sense of what's going on. What happened to OJ, what happened in his life. Like, I don't think you could make a more perfect documentary on this guy. And that's why it's my pick. I think the winner will actually be Life Animated, which I think is probably the worst of these features, but I believe it'll probably win only because it is about, for one thing, it's the least confrontational, and for another, it's about how film is helping this person through his life, and how film is great, and it's a bunch of actors who are voting, so of course, they have made an impact, so that's why I presume it's going to win. Now for directing, we have Arrival, Hacksaw Ridge, Mel Gibson nominated for directing. What the hell kind of world are we in now? But anyway, La La Land, Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight. Now, I realize at this point you might be thinking, well, last year you predicted The Revenant would win a bunch of movies, yada yada yada. But you forget, yes, last year I also put Mad Max Fury Road as my pick for a ton of those. Because Mad Max was really a huge competitor against The Revenant. Whereas this year, La La Land doesn't have any kind of competition like that. Like, I'm sure it'll be beat out in a few places. There's been a few that I've mentioned so far, but for the most part, there is not a movie that has that level of popularity on this list. So, of course, it's going to win this one. As with many of the next ones that I'm going to be mentioning. I would personally pick Moonlight for directing. I remember such very intense scenes in there, like one that still haunts me, where basically, like, this is a character-changing moment when our main character, he's been bullied by this kid and stuff, and he reaches his breaking point in class when he just calmly walks up behind him, picks up a chair, and smashes it against his head. It is a haunting scene, and my god, it makes the movie so very memorable. So I think that was a great directing moment, and that's why I believe it is my favorite out of that list. For costume design, we have Allied, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Florence Foster Jenkins, Jackie, and the winner. Now, my pick is, of course, going to be Florence Foster Jenkins, believe it or not. It has a lot of elaborate costuming, for one thing, and for another, I was never impressed that much with La La Land. I mean, it was colorful in terms of costume, but there was nothing that really stood out to me. And Florence Foster Jenkins, this is about a very like elaborate, extravagant person. So there were many different costume pieces that are really memorable from that movie. Cinematography, we have Arrival, Winner, Lion, Moonlight, and Silence. Cinematography, of course, for me, I'm going with Silence, but yeah, the winner's obvious. This is one of those ones that's just like, you can't even argue. It's just gonna happen. It's coming, and you can't stop it. Now moving on to something a little nicer, the animated feature film category. We have Kubo and the Two Strings, Moana, My Life as a Zucchini, The Red Turtle, and Zootopia. As I said in my kind of preliminary one, there was really no need for me to see Zucchini and Red Turtle to know who was going to win this. Zootopia is going to win this. Don't try and delude yourselves. Kubo deserves it, of course, but it's not gonna win. It's practically impossible. I mean, these are the people that chose Brave. They chose Brave over Wreck-It Ralph and Paranorman. They do not see logic. They only see, my kid really liked that. And also, there is some sort of really watered down message. So, we gotta go with this. Whatever, I guess just like peace and forgiveness and shit just ain't cutting it. But, what do I know? Now we have actor in a supporting role, Natasha Ali, Moonlight, Jeff Bridges, Hell or High Water, Lucas Hedges, Manchester by the Sea, Devin Patel for Lion, Michael Shannon for Nocturnal Animals. Now, for both of these, going with Jeff Bridges. He's the only one that kind of stood out to me. He's playing the tough sheriff type. It's a very challenging role, and I think that's why the Academy will appreciate it. And just generally, I thought it was the best. Now we have actress in a leading role, Isabel Hubbard for Ellie, Ruth Negga for Loving, Natalie Portman for Jackie, Emma Stone for La La Land, and Meryl Streep for Florence Foster Jenkins. Now, this is another La La Land obvious win. Yeah, I know, but she was probably the better of the two in that movie, so it's not that bad a thing. My pick is going to be, believe it or not, Meryl Streep. I thought she gave a very convincing performance as Miss Jenkins. I know she is a terrific actress, but she managed to play a dimwit really well, and I think that was a great accomplishment. Now we have actor in a leading role with Casey Affleck, Manchester by the Sea, Andrew Garfield for Hacksaw Ridge. I'm sorry. I'm sure he has a chance. Just tiny. Ryan Gosling for La La Land, Viggo Mortensen for Captain Fantastic, and Denzel Washington for Fences. And I think that almost certainly Casey Affleck, my favorite, is going to win this one because Manchester by the Sea is such a bitch, and it is awesome. And also, even critics seem to admit that Ryan Gosling is the weaker link of La La Land, so I think he'll be beat out in this one. There's going to be awards for everybody except him. That is my prediction. And now finally, the one you've all been waiting for, the Best Picture nominations. Yeah, we have like way too many things nominated, like 9 things. But anyway, we've got Arrival, Fences, Hacksaw Ridge, Hell or High Water, Hidden Fences, La La Land, Lion, and Manchester by the Sea, and Moonlight. Will La La Land take home the prize? Not necessarily. You see, with Best Picture, they actually kind of try and mix it up so you don't expect what's going to happen. That's why Spotlight kind of stole it out from everyone's noses last time, because it's never normally the one you expect that much. I mean, there was Birdman, but then again, everybody, and I do mean everybody, was expecting Boyhood to win that year. So, it's not necessarily clear-cut that La La Land will win. It's obvious some of them will not win. For instance, Arrival and Hidden Figures have almost no chance. Too plain for the Academy, too mainstream. It's just how it is. So, therefore, with caution, knowing that it is likely to swing in any different direction, like I think Hell or High Water is pretty close, Fences is really close, Manchester by the Sea is really close, but I think Moonlight is going to be the one that'll take home the trophy. Now, my personal pick is Manchester by the Sea, but nonetheless, I think Moonlight just has that edge to it that'll make it the winner. So, what do you guys think? Do you agree with my predictions? Do you not? Are you watching this a week or so in the future and all of my predictions are wrong and you want to make fun of me? Well, just post them in the comments below and we'll all have a good time. I'll release a video after the Oscars stating what I thought. Did I like Jimmy Kimmel's performance? What all the embarrassing things were? How much of the show was dedicated to bashing Donald Trump? We'll see. It'll all be so fun, I'm sure. Until next time, bye. So long. Have fun. Bye. Yeah.